What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gage. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm thrilled to be sharing my take on the Primite Blue Eyes deck profile. This variant of the deck is something that is much more competitive to be able to play. Recently, I dropped a version of this deck that was more budget-friendly and was using mostly 3 copies of the structure deck to be able to build. But with the recent reprint of Primite Lordly Load, this variant of the deck is actually more affordable and is hyper competitive and consistent. So I am very excited to be able to show it off. I recently hit 500 subscribers, so thank you so much to everyone who has been supporting me. I really appreciate it. So if you're fans of content like this and want to continue to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It'll really encourage me to continue to bring you these profiles. So without further ado, let's just hop right into it. So guys, of course, if we are playing Blue Eyes, we have to play 2 copies of the main man himself, and that is Blue Eyes White Dragon. I am playing specifically the movie pack artwork, and it's just the absolutely gorgeous, in my opinion, especially in Secret Rare. The video honestly doesn't do it justice. You have to see it in person if you haven't seen it in person already. So as far as the ratios, Blue Eyes is one of those cards where you can get away with 3 in a pure build. However, because the Primite Engine makes it that much more consistent to be able to get into the Blue Eyes, you do not necessarily need to play 3. 1 is too little. You definitely don't want to end up in a situation where it gets bestialed or removed from play because it can be hard to continue to play the game from that instance. So it's more just an insurance policy to ensure that you have access to at least 1 Blue Eyes in rotation at all times. And of course, it does give your Majesty Trap a lot more power if you do have 2 in rotation as well. And we'll talk about that a little later on in the profile. So for the Primite Blue Eyes, you definitely want to play 2. It's already a brick. There are instances in which it's not the worst thing in the world if it's in your hand because you could pitch it off of a Wishes or something along those lines. But yeah, 2 is definitely the way you want to go in this build in particular. It is so easy to be able to get the Blue Eyes into rotation, whether you're sending it off of the Mausoleum, you're specialing it off of the Roar, things of that nature. So yeah, definitely play 2. You could play around with the different ratios. And just noting that for this profile, even though it is specific to the physical TCG, you can also take a lot of the philosophy that you see and build it in Master Duel as well. There are only a few cards hit in Master Duel for this deck. I think only Sage is at 2. I think a Maiden is at 2. But for the most part, most of the deck is pretty much the same. So yeah, if you're interested in building it in Master Duel, you can use it there as well. But know that the ratios are a bit different. Speaking of which, we are, of course, playing 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. Thankfully, it's still at 3 in the TCG. And this is definitely one of the best starters / extenders that the deck has to offer. It is a level 1 light spellcaster, which is relevant because it allows you to go into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue Link monster, which is incredibly important to your combos. But when it's normal summoned, you can add 1 level 1 light tuner from the deck to your hand, except for itself. So that's really great for being able to get access to your Maiden, which is imperative for your combos. But even more importantly, it gives you access to things like Effect Veiler if you already have access to the Maiden, just for additional disruption on your opponent's turn. A more niche effect is the fact that you can discard this card, target an effect monster you control, send it to the grave, and if you do, special summon the Blue Eyes from the deck. I found that it doesn't come up as often, but if you really do need access to Blue Eyes in a pinch, it is one of the many different ways that you can get Blue Eyes into rotation. So yeah, 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue in a variant like this is a must. And of course, we are playing 3 copies of Maiden of White, just one of the most powerful pieces of support that Blue Eyes has received in many, many years. It is a very powerful starter, a very powerful extender. You'll notice again, it is a level 1 light spellcaster. So this is, of course, another card that you can use to go into your level 1 Link 1 monster. And yeah, let's just take a look at it together. So you could send it from the hand to the graveyard to place a True Light from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So This is one of the most powerful traps that the deck has to offer. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, and we'll talk about it a little later on in the profile, but you definitely want to be able to get this in rotation, and the fact that the Maiden is able to place the True Light from the deck means that it plays around Ash Blossom, so you don't have to worry about this effect getting ashed. There are still other cards in the deck that play into it, so if you're playing against someone that's smart, they might end up saving the ash for things like a Wishes of Eyes of Blue, but at least you can know that you'll gain access to your True Light no matter what. And then if you special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon while this is in the grave, you have the ability to special summon this card to the field, which is really great for being able to get access to easy synchro plays. And then a little bit more niche of an ability, but it has come up in few instances, as that when it is targeted for an attack, you can quick effect special summon a Blue Eyes or one level 1 Light Tuner from your graveyard. So it doesn't happen as often because most of the time, if she's brought out, you're going to be using her as the tuner for a synchro summon. But yeah, Maiden of White is just the glue that really helps to make the deck super consistent and really powerful. So you definitely want to max out on 3 copies. And of course, we are playing the Primite Engine, so we are playing 3 copies of Primite Dragon Ether Barrel. Just a really dope-looking boss monster, not boss monster, but just a really cool-looking card in general. You know, the dragon in the artwork is just really cool. And yeah, on normal summon, you could set a Primite spell or trap from the deck. So again, another card that just plays around Ash Blossom and just kind of disrespects your opponent. It's one of those things where you can get immediate access to one of the most powerful spells, being Drillbeam, which we'll talk about in just a second, without having to worry that it ends up getting, ashed or anything like that. It just depends on how you want to play, and it also depends on whether or not you have access to Lordly Load. So if you already drew the Lordly Load, then you can use the Ether Barrel to go ahead and just directly set the Drillbeam, so that just in case if you play the Lordly Load and it gets ashed, then you don't have to worry that you're losing out on access to Drillbeam, because Drillbeam is just such a powerful card. It also does have another ability where, most importantly, you can tribute this card, send a normal monster from the deck to the grave, which again is yet another way to get access to Blue Eyes in rotation. But during the standby phase, if you have a normal monster in your field or graveyard, which 99% of the time you will, you can add this card from the graveyard to your hand. So it's excellent recursion for the deck to ensure that essentially if your opponent doesn't end up dealing with you in their turn, you are going to be able to outgrind them pretty nicely. So yeah, the Primite Engine just fits right at home in Blue Eyes. So I definitely recommend on maxing out on 3 copies. And of course, because it is a level 4 or lower dragon, it is also yet another card that you can use to link into your Spirit with Eyes of Blue. So just keep that in mind as we're playing certain cards. As I alluded to, this is the Primite Engine, so we're playing 3 copies of Primite Lordly Load. This really does take the deck to the next level because of the fact that when it's activated, you can add a Primite card from the deck to your hand. So if you need access to a monster to go into your link plays with Spirit with Eyes of Blue, you could go ahead and go for the Ether Barrel. Or if you already have access to the Ether Barrel, or and you don't want to, risk not getting access to your Drillbeam, you could just go ahead and search the Drillbeam, which we'll talk about in just a second. But it also has another effect where it says you could declare a normal monster card name, special summon 1 declared normal monster from your hand, deck, or grave in defense position, and then you can't activate the effects of special summon monsters on the field this turn. So one of the things to note is that when you are utilizing this, you usually want to utilize that effect towards the end of your combo. It's weirdly worded, but you actually can still, combo, use the effects of special summon monsters, and then towards the end of the combo, use the Lordly Load to go ahead and grab an additional Blue Eyes from wherever you need it. After that, you are locked from those effects. But just keep in mind that usually you want to reserve utilizing that kind of towards the end of the combo so that you are not locked out of those effects. So just keep that in mind. This is very much one of those things that can help you to extend and push in the event that you end up getting hit with a Nibiru. So you always have access to being able to, special summon and keep pushing. And that's what's strong about Blue Eyes, is that if you play conservatively and low to the ground, you have the ability to play around so many different things. So Lordly Load is fantastic. Excellent consistency piece that the deck desperately needed. And you have to play 3 copies in a variant like this. And of course, we are playing not 1, but 2 copies of one of the most busted cards in the deck, and that is Primite Drillbeam. So we'll go through it step by step. So first off, it's a quick effect. It is a quick play spell card, meaning that you can not only use it on your turn, but you can use it on your opponent's turn, which is the reason why it is strong for disruption. And it allows you to either reveal a Primite card or normal monster in your hand. So that's either a Lordly Load in your hand, an Ether Barrel in your hand, or a Blue Eyes in your hand. Or if you control a normal monster or a level 5 or higher Primite monster. So unfortunately, that does not include the Ether Barrel. So we are not playing any level 5 or higher Primite monsters. So that alternate activation condition of controlling a normal monster really is just relevant for controlling Blue Eyes itself. Then you can go ahead and activate this card, and then target 1 face-up card on the field. Negate its effects, and if you do, banish it. That is just incredible. Most of the time, a well-timed Drillbeam will end the game, because you're not only negating a card, but you're banishing it as well and removing it from play. So that is one of the things where Drillbeam is just really good, layered on top of an end board where you might already have a Spirit Dragon in rotation. You might already have your Effect Veilers in your hand. You've already got your Majesty set. Drillbeam is just the cherry on top of a really, really nice end board. So, and then, of course, because if it wasn't already good enough, during your main phase, if you control a Primite monster, so that's, Ether Barrel, which you're going to be searching in the standby phase anyway, so most of the time you will have access to that, you could just straight up set this card from the grave. So after you've used it, you could go ahead and set it. I like to, because honestly, I don't mind drawing into it. There are going to be times where, you don't necessarily have to go out of your way to go ahead and search it. Obviously, it's nice that you can, but you don't have to. So Drillbeam is an incredibly powerful card, and I recommend playing it at 2. So for some additional cards that we're playing, some additional spells, we are playing 2 copies for Wishes for Eyes of Blue. This is a card that I've gone back and forth on, but I do think that playing 2 is correct. 3 is unfortunately too many, just because it is cost intensive, because you do have to discard for its effect. So this one allows you to discard a card, add a level 1 Light Tuner, and set a spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. And then when it's in the grave, you can banish this from the grave, target a Blue Eyes White Dragon you control, equip 1 Blue Eyes monster from your extra deck to it as an equipped spell that gives it 400 attack. So you're mostly using it for its ability to search for the tuner as well as the speller trap, because that pretty much gets you access to almost anything in the deck that you need. It is just unfortunate that it's on a discard, so it is very, very kind of vulnerable to Ash Blossom. However, there are ways to be able to, depending on your hand, play around that if your opponent just so happens to be trying to hold their Ash for this card in particular. But it is easily settable off of your True Light trap as well. So yeah, it's just really easy to get into from the combo. So you don't necessarily need 3. And then one of the other most important things and why I'm not playing it at 3 is that you're also not playing enough spell or traps that mention Blue Eyes that facilitate the search. So sometimes you can actually have it dead in the late game if you do not have enough search targets left in the deck, because you do need to be able to fulfill not only searching the Light Tuner, but also adding the Blue Eye Speller Trap. So just keep that in mind, as you legally cannot activate the card if you've ran out of those both of the specific targets that it needs. I'm also playing 1 copy of Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. This is just still a fantastic card. You can special summon a defense position of Blue Eyes from the deck, grave, or banish zone. So this is one of the few ways that you can recur a Blue Eyes if it does just so happen to get banished off of something like a Bestial. And And then it has a secondary effect where you could banish it from the grave and then fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, and it has to include a Blue Eyes. So usually that's a really good way for you to be able to get into your Tyrant Dragon. So yeah, this is a search target off of the wishes. So there are going to be instances in which if you need additional extension, then Roar is just really nice at being able to help you have that extra push. We're also playing one copy of Mausoleum of White. This is the field spell that is searchable off of your Spirit with Eyes of Blue Link monster. And during the main phase, you can normal summon a level 1 light tuner in addition to your normal summoner set, which is really nice because most of the time that is going to be a tuner that you can then use for an additional synchro summon. And then just as importantly, you can once per turn target a face-up monster you control, send one normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack and defense equal to the level of the monster sent to the grave times 100 until the end of the turn. So that is mostly relevant for just getting your Blue Eyes from the deck into your graveyard. So that helps you to almost always get the Blue Eyes into rotation, because if it's in the graveyard, you could special summon it off of something like the Spirit with Eyes of Blues effect, or you could use it to special summon off of your True Light as well. It does have one last ability where you can banish this card from the grave to add a burst stream of destruction from the deck to your hand. I do not play that card. You could certainly tech it if you want, but I do think that it is just unnecessary, but it is nice to have that as an option. And so one card that might be a little bit more unorthodox, I am choosing to tech one copy of Puri Rice Map. At the start of the main phase, you can add a monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, half your life points, and then after adding it to your hand until the end of the next turn, you cannot activate the added monster's effects or the effects of cards with its name until you normal summon that monster. So the theory behind this is that it really just helps to, math-wise, increase the probability of you getting access to your engine because it's essentially a 4th copy of Sage. And Sage is just such a powerful summon in the deck that having an extra copy of this is just always going to make it so that your deck is really consistent, in my opinion. So I am more than happy to pay half of my life points if it means being able to play the game. Now, if you already have access to your Sage, a lot of people will look at this as an Ash target, in which case it just ends up becoming bait, and then you could go ahead and just utilize the Sage anyway. So I wouldn't play more than one, especially since it's one of those cards that it's you don't necessarily need to play multiples of. So yeah, I just like teching it as an additional copy of Sage. I would recommend at least giving it a shot. And then for some defensive options, I am playing one copy of Called by the Grave and one Crossout Designator. Just because you can play around hand traps doesn't mean you necessarily want to. There are going to be many instances in which your opponent hits you with something like a Mulch Army or things of that nature, and you just don't want to deal with it. So having defensive options, Crossout, we are playing a number of different hand traps to be able to play around certain cards. So that is why I enjoy playing the Crossout. So yeah, I highly recommend, testing, playing these defensive options just because you never know what you're going to get hit with. And I just like having an insurance policy if I have access to my combo and I'm worried about getting hit somewhere along the pipeline. So I've mentioned it a few times throughout the profile, but I am playing the Majesty of the White Dragons. It is just one of the best search targets off of the wishes for sure. And it is just incredibly powerful. You could show up to 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand, face-up monster zone, and or graveyard, and then destroy an equal number of cards your opponent controls. That's absurd because of the fact that you are always going to have a Blue Eyes somewhere. It's either on the field, it's either in your hand, or it's in the grave. And there's so many ways to be able to get it into rotation. And this card, non-targeting, destroys cards on the field. So that could be face-up spell traps that your opponent has, field spells, face-up monsters. This, a well-timed Majesty can and will end your opponent's turn. So the fact that it is searchable and it is non-targeting makes it one of the most powerful pieces of disruption that your opponent has, that you have access to. One of the most busted things about it is that it is also because of the fact that it's a trap, your Tyrant Dragon, which has the ability to get access to your trap cards again, means that if you've already utilized this and you have access to your Tyrant Dragon, you could go ahead and reset this and use it later down the line. So I highly recommend continuing to play Majesty in a variant like this, just because of the sheer power that it gives your M board. And of course, the one and only True Light. It is just the glue that really helps make the deck tick. It is both a very powerful card, but also a card that people are going to beeline to try and remove from your field as fast as possible, because it does have an unfortunate downside. So your opponent cannot target Blue Eyes White Dragon in your monster zone with card effects. It's okay, nice protection. But if this face-up card is sent from the field to the graveyard, destroy all monsters you control. Now, that is an unfortunate downside. However, there are ways to be able to mitigate against that. You are able to set up disruption in the form of Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon in the event that your opponent has something like a Cosmic Cyclone or a Lightning Storm or something along those lines. So you can straight up negate it in certain instances, or you have access. We are playing the Azure Eyes that gives you your dragon's protection from destruction, including your own True Light. So there are ways to be able to play around its effect. Obviously, you don't want to have to lose it, but there are going to be instances in which you do. I've had certain times where my opponent will bounce it, or they'll banish it. And remember that the destruction only happens if this is sent to the graveyard. So if you do see that your opponent is going for a play in which they are going to try and remove it in a way that doesn't send it to the graveyard, don't worry too much about it, because it means that your monsters won't end up being destroyed because of it. So just keep that in mind as you are using this card and your opponent is trying to play, essentially trying to get rid of it. So it does have two really nice effects. So it has the ability to either special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from the hand or graveyard. So that is just really nice extension. But of course, because we're placing this on our turn, a lot of the times we're going to be using it to set a spell or trap from the deck that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon, but it has to be with a different name from the cards you control and in your graveyard. 99% of the time, turn one, you're not going to have cards with the same name in the graveyard. So it really just means that you'll be able to set whatever you need. Most of the time I'm going for Wishes, just because it is one of the cards that can get you access to just a multitude of different things. But you can either use it to directly set the Majesty if you already have access to the Wishes, things of that nature. It is very flexible in how you can use it. So yeah, you definitely have to play one True Light. And of course, it is just the glue that really does help to hold everything together. So as I did mention, to round out the main deck, we are playing a multitude of different hand traps. Of course, one of the biggest ones being Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So yeah, if you end up getting, your opponent hits you with hits your Wishes with an Ash, and you just so happen to have a crossout designator, you always have a target for it. And Mulch Armies are a very prominent card in the metagame, and so being able to have an additional counter to those Mulch Armies in Ash Blossom is really nice to have. I'm also playing 3 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being. Just because you can play around it doesn't mean you necessarily always want to have to. This paired with another hand trap is always going to be very powerful, especially if you are going second to help break boards. So yeah, I still enjoy playing 3 copies. There are some decks that either can't play around it depending on their hand, or they just don't respect it because it might not always be relevant in the metagame. I'm also playing 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Not only is it just an incredibly powerful floodgate hand trap and being able to protect your opponent's monster, being able to stop your opponent from being able to add too many cards from the deck to their hand, but it is a level 1 spellcaster monster that you can use to go into your spirit as well. So it's actually a pseudo starter in many instances if you are desperate for a play. So that's why I really enjoy still being able to have the Droll because of the additional utility there. And of course, I'm playing 3 copies of Effect Veiler. It is just searchable in so many ways, but a lot of the times I don't mind opening it. It's an additional interruption against your opponent, and it is a level 1 spellcaster tuner that you can also use to get into your spirit. You guys throughout the entire profile can probably see that I've mentioned spirit a lot, and the fact that basically a quarter of your deck is able to help you get into it, means that you're almost always going to be able to get access to it. So yeah, I still love Valor. It is just a nice interruption to be able to have on top of your end board. And yeah, I couldn't see myself playing without it. And to round out the main deck, we are playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just a very strong trap card that you can use as a hand trap to be able to add additional effect negation against your opponent. So guys, that's it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and talk about the extra. So as I've mentioned throughout the entirety of the video, we are of course playing Spirit with Eyes of Blue. It is one of the biggest pieces of support that Blue Eyes has ever gotten. It is a Link 1 dragon monster that requires 1 level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster monster. That's going to be your Ether Barrels, that's going to be your Spirit, your Sage, your Maiden, etc. And you cannot, so one of the things is that it does have a restriction, so you do have to be careful. In that, as long as it's on the field, you cannot special summon monsters except for dragons. There are many different ways that you can mitigate against that. It can remove itself to be able to special summon a Blue Eyes, for example, but you could also link it away. And we are, playing other link monsters like the Hieratic Seals that allow you to remove it with ease. So if it's link summoned, you can add the Mausoleum of White from the deck to your hand or send it to the grave. Most of the time, you're going to want to add it to your hand. So that allows you to get access to the field spell, which then gets the Blue Eyes into the graveyard. And then you contribute this card to special summon a Blue Eyes from your hand or deck. It can attack and its effects are negated. That doesn't matter. Most of the time, if you're playing turn 1, that's not going to come up just because you're going to end up using it to set up for a synchro play anyway. So yeah, Spirit with Eyes of Blue just helps get the deck in rotation. So it is very important. I haven't had 3 come up. I do think that 2 is the sweet spot. So you could certainly play around with the ratios, but I think that playing 2 copies is definitely a must in this deck. As I alluded to, I am playing 2 copies of Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. This is just a really nice card to be able to layer your end board with additional interruption. It just requires 2 dragons. So that is one of the ways that you can get rid of your Spirit with Eyes of Blue because of the fact that Spirit locks you into dragons and Hieratic Seal is a dragon. And then it has the ability where once per opponent's turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, you contribute a monster from your hand or field to return a face-up card on the field to the hand. And if it's tributed, you could special summon a dragon from your hand or deck, make its attack 0. So this is also nice because it does quote-unquote play around Nibiru because Nibiru tributes, so it does trigger if it is tributed. So it does give you a consolation prize in being able to get a dragon from the deck. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, it's just really nice for being able to link off your Spirit if needed and to just have an additional interruption on the field. And I'm playing 1 copy of SP Little Knight. It's just one of those things where if I do have a seal that I am not using and I want to be able to, get its ability to banish a card that my opponent controls either or in their graveyard, it is just nice contingency to have to be able to get rid of random things that you might not be able to get rid of otherwise. And for the Synchro Monsters, so I've mentioned it a few times throughout the profile, but we are playing 2 copies of Blue Eye Spirit Dragon. This is just an incredible card even till this day. First off, neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time, so that floodgate effect completely hoses any pendulum strategies because your opponent straight up can't pendulum summon multiple monsters. And once per turn, when the effect of a card in the graveyard is activated, you could quick effect negate it, which is nice. And it has the ability where you contribute the Synchro Summon card, special summon 1 Light Dragon Synchro Monster from your extra deck in defense position. So we are playing a myriad of targets that we'll get into in just a moment to be able to special summon off of this effect. And there are many times where you will want to be able to go into 2 copies of the Spirit Dragon just because it is just such a powerful card. The ability to tribute the Synchro Summon card to special summon a Light Dragon is not once per turn. So you can use both in the same turn if needed. So just keep that in mind as we talk about some of these extra deck monsters. So I am choosing to play 2 copies of Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, just as a target that you can use to get off of your Spirit Dragon. It's an incredible card. First off, your opponent cannot banish cards from your graveyard. And when a card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn. So that is one of the things where, because this card is essentially an omni-negate, it allows you to play around pieces of interruption that would normally be difficult to play around. So, if your opponent does try to go for a Harpy's Feather Duster, this has the ability to negate it. And if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you could special summon a Light Dragon monster from your graveyard, which is nice because the Spirit Dragon would normally go ahead and destroy the monster that you summon from the that you kind of cheat out from the extra deck off of its effect during the end phase, and this will trigger off of that. It'll trigger if it is destroyed off of the True Light because your opponent managed to destroy it. And yeah, the fact that this is able to get back your Spirit Dragon is nice. There are going to be times where you grab Blue Eyes off of its effect if it's destroyed, but because you're able to special summon the Blue Eyes off of the True Light and off of so many other different ways, there are a lot of times where I will just straight up go for the Spirit Dragon to revive. Something that is really cute is that if you go for the double Spirit Dragon play, a lot of people, one of the things is that they will use to counter against Spirit Dragon is Call by the Grave. So say on your opponent's turn, you go ahead to tribute the Blue Eyes to special summon something from the extra deck. Your opponent will try to use Called by the Grave to target the Spirit Dragon to banish it from the grave to negate its effects. However, if you chain a second Spirit Dragon, on resolution, if you go into your ultimate Spirit Dragon, because the ultimate Spirit Dragon says that your opponent cannot banish cards, it means that your Spirit Dragon's effect will not be negated because of the fact that Call by the Grave can no longer banish cards from your graveyard. So that is just a cheeky way of being able to play around Called by the Grave that I use a lot in Master Duel in particular, and I know that my opponents must be like, why is the game bugging? Nope, it's not bugging. It's just, counterplay. So yeah, I love the Ultimate Spirit Dragon. I definitely recommend at least one. I really like to. I'm also teching the one Azure Eye Spirit Dragon, Silver Dragon. It says if it's special summoned until the end of the turn, neither player can target dragon monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by card effects. So that is one of the ways that I play around the True Light being destroyed, because if you special summon it off of the Spirit Dragon, it means that all of your dragons will be protected from being destroyed off of your own True Light's effect. Sometimes I'll just use this preemptively on my turn going into my opponent's turn because it does last until the end of the next turn. So, and then it does have a nice kind of consolation in that during the standby phase, you could target a normal monster in your grave and special summon it, and that is during your standby, not your opponent's. I'm also playing the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. Again, just another target off of the Spirit Dragon that allows you to, if it's special summoned, if this card is special summoned or a level 5 or higher monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls and just bounce into the hand. So just really nice disruption to have. I'm also playing one Lightstorm Dragon. If it's special summoned, you could target spell or traps on the field to up to the number of normal monsters in your graveyard +1 and destroy them. So a lot of the times that's going to be at least 2. But it can be up to 3 if you have both of your Blue Eyes in the graveyard. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a spell or trap in your grave and set it. It cannot be activated unless you control a normal monster, but again, that is very easy to fulfill. We're also playing one copy of the Tyrant Dragon, as I alluded to. This is just a really powerful fusion that you have at your disposal. It must be fusion summoned by, or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing one Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a fusion monster. It's unaffected by trap effects, and it can attack all your opponent's monsters once each, and once per turn at the end of the damage step. If this card battled, you could target a trap in your grave and set it. So earlier I mentioned that you could use that to go ahead and reset your Majesty, but you could also use it to reset things like your Infinite Impermanence or even your True Light if it just so happens to get sent to the graveyard as well. So really nice recursion there. As I mentioned earlier, the wishes it has the ability to banish itself to go ahead and attach an extra deck monster. And a lot of the times you're going to go ahead and attach the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. That is because if it is in the graveyard and your opponent attempts to, when a card or effect is activated that targets a Blue Eyes monster you control, you could quick effect banish this from the grave to negate that activation and destroy that card. So it's really nice because you could go ahead and use the wishes to attach the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and then just go ahead and immediately special summon into your Tyrant Dragon. So just one of the ways to get it. And now that this is in the graveyard, you have the protection from targeting. So you're it's already unaffected by trap effects, so that would your opponent wouldn't be able to, imperm it anyway. But if your opponent does have other cards like Mind Control, for example, you could just go ahead and banish this from the grave and protect your Tyrant Dragon. And the last card that I'm teching is just a simple Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis, just as a absolute last resort to be able to, essentially just kind of go into if all else fails. So this is the panic button card. Most of the time, if you're going into this, it means that you're probably losing the game, but there are going to be instances in which maybe your opponent controls nothing but monsters that are above the 3,000 attack threshold, in which case it's nice to be able to go into this to basically negate all of your opponent's monster effects. So guys, that's it for the extra deck. I'm going to quickly go over the side deck. Nothing is locked in stone, and ultimately it just depends on kind of your local metagame. But I am choosing to play 3 copies of Mulcharmy Fulos. It is one of those cards that I don't necessarily... you can absolutely main deck it, but if I end up going first, a lot of the times it just ends up getting discarded anyway. So I really don't like main decking this just because I always intend on going first on if I lose the die roll, in which case I don't like having a ton of dead cards in my hand. So obviously an absolutely powerful card, and I'm siding it in most of the time if I find that my opponent is playing a strategy that special summons a lot from the deck or extra deck. I'm also playing 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. Malice is still very much a thing. There are still many decks that like to banish, so just having a nice floodgate effect is very relevant. So, it's still a very powerful hand trap to this day. I'm also just choosing to get even more effect negation. This can honestly be any other hand trap. It could be another Mulcharmy, but I am choosing to play 3 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Mostly because I really like the artwork. Honestly, there's not too much rhyme or reason there. Just a really cool looking hand trap, in my opinion. I'm also playing 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet just to be able to help with breaking boards. That's the thing about Blue Eyes, is that it can have a difficult time breaking into boards, so just having a nice insurance policy there is always welcome. And for the last card, I am choosing to play 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. I will side into this going first, and if I am able to get into my combo with the D-Barrier set, that's pretty much GG's depending on the deck that you're playing against. So, guys, I hope that you found this useful. If you are interested in seeing maybe, some standard combos with the deck, I can certainly whip up an additional video in which I could do, some standard combos if you are interested in seeing how the deck functions. But that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not done so already. And until next time, GG.